terms of levels of evidence, well, personal experience is one level of evidence. A doctor's report of anecdotes would be a level of evidence, and those are very, very low levels.
Right.
Beyond that, there are things like a well-written case series, which may point to something that ought to be researched further. But and then it gets complicated because there are now a lot of pretty junky journals that'll publish anything, and there are people who even post articles written in, almost fake journals. They look like they were journals. May turn out they're not even journals. They're just formatted that way. So again, it's better to go to the sources that have the background to evaluate. I can talk about why personal experience is not, first of all, it may not be true, but assuming that someone actually is reporting accurately that, oh, I took such and such a pill and I felt much better. Well, how do you know that's not a coincidence? Maybe you would have felt better anyway. So in order to separate that, you have to do studies.
Right, but people could compare themselves, like within one person, n=1 experiment, before they used it and after they used it and after they stopped using it, and do such experiments several times over several years, and at least get some degree of evidence of how it works for them, I think.
Stopping, starting might be a reasonable way to test something on yourself. One of the questions would be, how often is it appropriate to do that? Is that the best? If you have a problem, is that the best way to handle it? Obviously, in some cases it might be, in many cases it might not be.
Right, right. At which point do you think that anecdotes become more useful than randomized controlled trials? How many participants, how many anecdotes are roughly equivalent to, let's say, 100 participants, 50 in the placebo group and 50 in an active group?
How would that compare to anecdotes? Anecdotes, I think you'd have to look specifically at the situation, but in general, the best that anecdotes can do, if you have a lot of them, is suggest that somebody ought to measure it properly. But they don't compare at all. And
So,
I can tell you that you have to be careful, because anecdotes may be flat out lies. They may not have happened. It may represent wishful thinking. It may represent coincidental recovery in a condition that has ups and downs. So I would say anecdotes are worthless. And I've investigated a few anecdotes and testimonials. It's very difficult to investigate them, but once in a while I've done it and realized that it's just an outright lie. I can give you an example. I give you two examples. One was a woman who was promoting a method of cancer treatment at a Mexican clinic, and she said, oh, I had an invasive cancer of my large intestine, and they cured me with Laetrile, which was widely promoted years ago. And she waved around a copy of her pathology report to prove that she had an invasive cancer. And I got a copy of it and I looked at it, and she was lying, because the report said she had a polyp that had an invasive cancer, a cancer invading the polyp wall. That's not invasive cancer. And the way you cure it is you just snip it off and the person is cured because it hasn't spread. So she was taking it, boasting that she had a treatment that was treated with Laetrile after she was cured by just snipping off the cancer. That's one example. The second example, more interesting, is Dr. Lorraine Day, who claims that she cured her cancer with prayer and dietary supplements, a special diet, and a few other things. And she put on the internet a copy of her pathology report. The only problem is that she didn't put a copy of the report that matches what she says. She claimed that she had a tumor the size of a grapefruit, and that the surgeons opened it up to relieve the pressure, but left it in place and sent her home to die. The fact is that she didn't put up the pathology report, and if she had, I believe it would have shown there was no cancer, but she won't disclose it.
Mm.
So I'm absolutely certain that she's lying.
I see. Well, let's define an anecdote then. What's your definition of an anecdote?
It's simply a single case report, generally one that's not, it's a story. It's a case report by an individual, generally not very well, usually not a very detailed report.